Fridays, Living Local Carolina is sponsored by Carolina Trust Federal Credit Union.
There's something so real about living local, about the people and the places where we live. Just look at all the reasons why we call this home. And I'm living local. I'm living local 'cause it's where I love to be.
Hey there, you're watching Living Local Carolina Financial Friday Community Panel, and I'm August, Carolina Trust Brand Ambassador. Today, I am joined by some very special guests. I have Tammy Hardy, who is a financial advisor with Edward Jones, and Christina Naylor, who is the Chief Operations Officer at Carolina Trust Federal Credit Union. So, ladies, thank you so much for joining me today. And we are so fortunate to work in the financial industry. And, you know, one of my favorite parts of my job is I'm able to be around so many wonderful moments that people go through in their lives when it comes to their finances, you know, growing their wealth, saving for a specific financial goal. But on, you know, the negative flip side of that, there are things, you know, that happen such as scams and fraud and things like that where people unfortunately lose a lot of money. And so we have brought in the experts today to kind of talk about fraud, different ways that we can stay alert, and, you know, how we can protect ourselves to prevent that from happening. So, ladies, you've both been in the industry for, you know, several years. How have you seen fraud become, you know, a growing issue to as major as it is today? And, you know, how big of a deal is fraud really in the finance industry?
Well, as a credit union employee and having been in the banking world, I can tell you that it is growing exponentially. It's a huge problem. It's a problem for banks, it's a problem for credit unions, all financial institutions, but it does affect people personally. It damages their livelihood, it damages their reputations, and it just keeps growing.
Yeah, and I've been in the finance industry for over 30 years, a lot of it in community banking as well, and I've seen it. And I think one of the important things for people to remember is that these people that are taking advantage of them are professionals, and it seems odd to say that, but they are professional criminals. And like all professionals, all of us, we look to perfect our craft. Yeah. That's what we do, and that's what they do too. And their means of doing so with technology is just becoming more and more sophisticated. So it's just growing just immensely.
Yeah, I'm sure. And over time, you know, being in the industry as long as you have, what are some of the different ways that you are seeing fraud evolve?
I think technology
It's changed everything.
is completely changed everything. The more technology changes and the more advancements are being made, the more advancement those professional criminals are making too. You just have to be so vigilant about everything that you do on any type of technology platform.
Exactly. So when I first started too many years ago, I can tell you that, you know, the worst fraud that would occur someone would steal some checks out of somebody's mailbox, and then they would attempt to pass a bad check. Well, that never goes away. The old school fraud is still out there, and you have to pay attention. But the ways that they can get you now, if you are not vigilant and diligent in monitoring your own records and taking ownership and responsibility, through every type of electronic media, they'll find a way, because they are professionals, and this is what they do for a living. It's overwhelming, but what you have to do is never be ashamed, never be afraid, and always ask for help.
And I love that you hit on that, because I think that is so important, is that, you know, there are so many different types of scams that we have to be, you know, alert to. And I think it's easy to feel embarrassed or ashamed if you know, put your guard down for 1 second and something like this happens to you. And I think it's super important that we, you know, emphasize that if you are a victim of fraud, you know, that you need to come forward and you need to reach out to your financial institution so that you can kind of get that, you know, the funds back that you lost, or, you know, help you on the new path to rebuilding.
The faster you reach out, the faster you can recover. The more likely you are to gain help from your financial institution, because it is on you to report quickly and effectively.
Yeah, for sure.
And they are professionals. So there's no reason to be embarrassed about being a victim.
You know, and it ranges. I've had women sitting in my office crying because they've been scammed by someone that they love.
Yeah.
They've been scammed by someone that said they cared for them.
Yeah.
Or by a total stranger promising them something that was never going to be delivered.
Right. And when we come back from the break, we'll talk about several different types of scams that are going on and how you can prevent those from happening. Welcome back to the Living Local Carolina Financial Friday Community Panel. I'm joined today with Tammy and Chris, and we are talking about fraud and how big of an issue it is. And now that we are here in the 21st century, a lot of the fraud that people are seeing and the ways that people are being taken advantage of are digital. So, I know you previously mentioned that it used to start out, people would steal checks from a mailbox and, would try to cash those. But now people's information, is at the tips of these professional criminals' fingertips. And so, they are able to use your phone number, your email, different things like that to try to attack you. What are some of the most prevalent digital ways that you guys have seen people try to take advantage of others?
Lately, I've been seeing an uptick in cell phones. So we forget that our cell phone now is not just a device to make a phone call.
Right.
It's a little mini computer.
Yeah.
And the ability to for scammers to text our phones and include links that allow them to then get into our phones. We use them. At least I know we personally do. You can buy everything off your cell phone.
Yeah, I agree. And I know for text, for me, all of my favorite brands and boutiques and things like that, I'll get on that marketing list where they're like 10% off. And so I'm used to seeing other text messages that are so similar to these scam text messages come through that are, click this link to shop the sale, it ends in an hour. And I think that's something that is super prevalent. I hear from our IT department all the time to stay alert, is that a lot of these scam messages that come through are time sensitive.
Yeah,
exactly. The same way, that deal on the new pair of shoes I want is going to be time sensitive. So, that makes it, you're so used to clicking on those links that it makes it so much more difficult.
Exactly. No matter how you receive it, whether it's an email solicitation or it's an email that looks like it's from someone that you trust, but it's not, or it's a text, or a call. No matter how you receive the solicitation, it's urgent. Something is happening right now, and you must take action. So those are the two things.
Right.
It's urgent, and you must take action. And that action is what will allow them access to either your computer system or your phone. And once they have access to your phone, they then could have access to your email. If you access your email via your phone, they have access to all of the information. Do you store your passwords on your phone? If you do, they then have all of your passwords.
Right.
So whenever you receive that communication and you feel that, I have to take action now, that's when you need to slow down and you need to stop and you need to make sure, I know exactly who this is from.
Right.
Is this legitimate? I don't confirm it via the information they've given me. I confirm it independently through my financial institution, or I go online and I find a number. I don't click where they tell me, I go elsewhere. If it's truly that urgent, then you'll be able to find it.
Right.
And that's huge, because I know someone personally who was the victim of a scam where they got the pop-up on their computer. And the message was of urgency, you need to do something now to protect your computer. It ended up being that this person allowed access to their computer to the scammer, subsequently got into their bank account, and that urgency, they also prey on your emotions, and that's huge. This one particular individual ended up allowing themselves to send money from their bank.
Right.
It was just, but they thought it was legitimate,
right,
because of the urgency and the emotional piece.
Right, and I think that urgency really puts your guard down, because in any urgent situation, even if it's not a scam, when you know that something is critical, you typically, a lot of your your normal rational thinking goes right out the window. You're like, oh my gosh, someone's hurt. I need to hurry and do everything I can to protect them. And they are able to use that urgency that they are, kind of pushing towards you to get you to act in a very unrational way, unlike you typically would. You typically wouldn't send any money to somebody that you don't know. But then as soon as they are able to kind of put you in that mindset of like, oh my gosh, there's an emergency, I've got to act now, that's how they're able to get you. And of course, they play on lots of different emotions. And we're going to learn a little bit more about that when we come back from the break. Welcome back to the Living Local Carolina Financial Friday Community Panel. Before the break, Tammy, Chris, and I were talking about fraud and how it has increased over the years, and how smart these professional criminals have got at targeting people. And I know when you think, how would they have all of my information? Not only do they have your information a lot of the times when they are coming to target you, but they know, where to get you. So for our younger generation, they know about different employment options that you may be already looking for on Indeed, especially with the way the job market is being.
Exactly.
And, with student loan forgiveness, things like that. So what are some of the different ways that you have seen scammers target people based on their age demographic?
Well, for younger people, we're seeing a lot of job solicitation fraud. Sometimes it'll be via check, but now it will be via email or call or text. Just to remember, no valid business that's hiring will require you to send money. No valid employer will require you to give your personal information prior to a legitimate application.
And a lot is that coming from, the position of like a sign-on bonus type deal where they're promising to offer money if you give information? How are they kind of approaching
What
that?
we're seeing a lot of is I approach you, we're going to send you a check. You deposit this check, and then you send money via Western Union, you send money in another fashion to us. You keep a portion of it it's a prepayment for work. Then once you've sent that money out, the check comes back and your financial institution is holding you personally responsible for it.
Right, and I know we hear a lot, especially at the credit union, we take lots of different courses on how to prevent elder fraud and things like that. So what are some of the ways that you are seeing members and clients be affected in our older generation?
Social Security fraud, I think, is very prevalent, and they tie that, going back to the urgency, they tie that back to people thinking that their Social Security benefits are at risk. And if an older person is using Social Security as their primary income source, they're not going to want to do or not do anything that will jeopardize that.
Right.
So there's a tendency, again, when you pair that up with that urgency of you need to do this or you need to provide me this information in order to keep your Social Security benefits in force,
Right.
That instills fear into people.
Right.
Typically, what they will do is say, we need you to confirm your Social Security, tell us what your Social Security number is, provide us all this information. We need to confirm this in order for your Social Security benefits to continue. And it's important for people to remember the Social Security Administration, they have
That
your
information.
they have that information.
Right, and I know with a lot of the horrible things that are going on, in the world today, people are looking for different ways to give back and to help. And I know that is a huge way that people can, scam others, or these fake accounts where, you're collecting donation funds for a specific charity and, different things like that. We've talked about lots of different types of fraud today. What are some things people can put in place to protect themselves to start with, and then what are some things people should do if they feel like they have become a victim of fraud?
The most important thing is to keep your information protected, to keep that phone protected. And the best way to do that is to make sure that most of the places that you're dealing with have something called multi-factor authentication. And what that means is I put my password in,
Right.
but then they're going to send me either a text or an email
Yeah, to follow
with
up.
some identifying information to follow up. That's the best way.
Right, and then, always making sure that if you become a victim of fraud, reach out to your financial institution as soon as possible. Reach out to the local police, things like that.
Just don't be embarrassed.
Yeah.
No matter what's happened to you, we've seen it before, and you're not. It's not because you're weak. It's
Right.
probably because you're a good person.
Yeah.
And the best way to help is to notify your financial institution as soon as possible so that we can fix it.
Thank you, ladies, so much for joining me today and helping protect our community from becoming victims of fraud. Thanks so much for tuning in at home, and we'll see you next time.